joy strategist from chasing-joy.com, and I feel like it's been a minute since I've been on here. Today is, I think, August 19th, 2020. We are still in the midst of the pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus, and it has just been quite an overwhelming time. Baby Joy Chasers daycare is still not open, which is at my job, and we are still working from home, which I'm grateful for because it's safer, but that also means he's here with me all day, every day. So I don't have much time to myself these days. So that's why I haven't done a video in a minute, but I wanted to do hopefully a quick video today. He's currently out taking a little walk with my niece. So I figured this was a good time to do a quick video. So one topic that I have been seeing come up frequently on some other podcasts and just in general social media is the idea of raising your children differently than how you were raised. And so I thought I'd touch on that a little bit. Outside of the huge difference of I grew up with two parents and my son just has me as his mom. I'm a single mom by choice. I use a sperm donor. You can search back through all my old videos for that whole journey and how and why I came to that decision. But outside of that, there's three main things that I am making a conscious effort to do differently with raising my son than how I was raised. So the first thing, which I think might be challenging for probably my relatives, is that I allow my son to tell me no. And I know that was not something I could do with my parents. I couldn't tell them no. And the one time finally as an adult, my dad once asked me to do something financially related. He asked me to co-sign on a car and I had to say no. And it was like the hardest thing I ever had to do. It wasn't because I didn't trust my dad. I thought that, he would scam me. But I knew my dad was older. I knew his health wasn't the best. And I, as much as I had to have like morbid thoughts, but I thought if something happened to him, I was going to be responsible for that whole car note. And I knew I couldn't afford it. So I had to say no. And I ended up saying, like, well, why don't you ask, so-and-so, was how I said it. He said, yeah, I'll look into that. It was super hard. So I allow my son to say no to me. Little kids as toddlers naturally say no. And it is the adult's gut instinct to be like, don't tell me no. It is my own instinct to say, don't tell me no. And I fight against it. And the main reason that I allow my son to tell me no is because I feel like if he can tell me no, that means he's going to be able to tell anybody else no. One reason I'm super, sorry, it's like something irritating my eye, of course. When I have a few minutes to do a video, I'm going to be irritated. One of the main reasons that that's important to me is because I've not really spoken much about this publicly, but I do have some past experiences in my life related to, I would say, I'm trying to think, how do I want to phrase it? I'll say in some inappropriate sexual contact when I was a kid. Happened to me. So I feel like if he's good at saying no, if someone was to want to be inappropriate with him or touch him in some way, I would not want to have any thoughts or qualms or hesitation with saying no. That's like my main gut instinct for why I want him to be able to say no. And that starts with me. Like I said, if he can say no to me, if he can say no, mommy, then he won't have any hesitation, I pray, with saying that to someone else. In the bigger picture, as he becomes an adult, a lot of people really struggle with saying no, and it is a huge joy thief. They take on more responsibilities than they need to. They have people in their lives that they shouldn't have, all because they can't say no. So I don't want him to fall into that trap. He instinctually knows how to say no at a 2-year-old, and I don't want to beat that out of him. So it is super challenging because sometimes you're like, pick up your toys, and he's like, no, mommy. Now he'll be like, sorry, mommy. So, and I have to be like, no. So I have started to explain to him that sometimes when mommy asks you to do something, it's a question. And sometimes when mommy asks you to do something, it's a demand, and you have to do it. So obviously he doesn't quite understand that yet, but he will as he gets older, and he'll learn the difference in my tone and based on what I'm saying. But I am not going to tell him ever, don't tell me no. Even though my gut instinct is to say that, because I'm sure it was said to me, and the challenge will be if family members hear him say, don't tell mommy no, for me to engage with them and be like, you know, it's okay if he tells me no, because I want him to be able to always say no to anyone. But then to go in and say, but, you know, I understand you don't want to do something, but this is not a time where mommy is really asking you. So in this case, you have to do X, Y, Z. So that is like the biggest thing. And it's a huge thing for me, because it's very different than how my parents raised me. The second thing that I'm doing is I want to raise my son in a way where we are not participating in rape culture. Now, honest to God, I don't know that I'm going to be successful because rape culture is so permeated in our, I'll say, American culture, probably in our world culture. But the main way that I want to focus on doing it different with my son is, so my dad was very protective of me, and he was very like old school, and he was an older dad. He's probably the age of a lot of my friends' grandparents. So his view of the world was definitely colored by his experience and his, you know, the time that he grew up. So he definitely passed on this message to me of that there were men in the world who could not control themselves, and if you're dressed a certain way, they're more likely to, you know, attack you, kidnap you, whatever. And he definitely had experience with some women in our family. You know, someone was kidnapped before, other people had different incidents, and so he really was fearful. And I know him saying this to me came from a place of love and protection, so I don't really fault him for it. But now in 2020, I see the error in that messaging, because the reality is there are some men who aren't willing to control themselves, or perhaps maybe, you know, I'm not a psychologist to be able to tell you if a rapist is a mental disorder or whatever. Whatever way they were choosing not to control themselves, or they can't control themselves. But the reality of it is, it doesn't matter what you wear. You know, God forbid something happens, that happened because that man has that problem and not because of what the woman was wearing. And I think there's like a whole performance, I don't know if it's performance art, but there's like a whole artistic piece called What I Was Wearing, where women have donated the clothing that they were wearing when they were traumatized or assaulted, or I'm saying traumatized, I'm sure it was traumatizing, victimized is what I meant, or assaulted or raped, and they're wearing whatever, they're wearing normal stuff. And the whole idea of asking a woman, what were you wearing when some horrible incident happened to her, is something we really need to do away with. I think it's slowly improving, but not enough. And I'm raising, you know, a young man. I'm going to be, you know, raising, I want him to be, you know, the best man, exemplary. And I definitely don't want him to have that line of thinking that the way a woman is dressed, whether provocative or modest, is any indicator as to how she should be treated. So I'm definitely making an effort to do that different. Like I said, I hope I'm successful, but I honestly, because I got that messaging struggle with some of this myself, you know, like if I were to have a daughter, you know, because I do have certain ideas and feelings about what is appropriate dress and not, but how would I communicate that to a daughter without like slut shaming and all these things that are part of rape culture? So I think it's going to be a challenge, but it's worth the effort. So that's the second thing that I hope to do differently in raising my son. The last thing is closely related to what I do as a blogger and joy strategist, and it's chasing joy. So my parents were very focused on like education and some spiritual practices like saying grace and prayer and knowing God and having a fun home life and a pleasant home experience. And all of that in some ways translates to happiness. But it wasn't specific in that the ideas weren't like, let me teach you this so you can be happy. So with him, because what I do, you know, as I write about and I do some videos and I do some events, all geared towards helping mostly women have a happier life. So I want him, like, babies start out happy in most cases. He's a happy kid and I want him to stay that way. So there's some things that I'm teaching him to do to hold on to that happiness and that joy so he doesn't have to chase it, you know, when he becomes an adult, right? So one of the things that I do with him that my parents never did with me, even though my dad talked about counting your blessings, I don't ever remember us doing it together. So kind of along the lines of getting him started with a gratitude practice and focused on positive things that are going on is every night when it's time to go to bed, before we say our prayers, I'll ask him, what was the best part of your day today? And obviously he's 2, he has a good amount of language, but you know, not that level of language, so he doesn't really answer. And so I'll think back over his day and I'll try to think about when I saw him having the most fun. So for example, I know he really enjoys spending time with my niece. So tonight when we are doing this, I'll say, what was the best part of your day today? And I'll pause in case he says anything, because one day he's going to really answer. But then I'll say, I think the best part of your day was when you went for a walk with Ambria, who's my niece. So, and then sometimes he'll be like, yeah. Or sometimes he'll be like, no, mommy. And then I'll like mention something else like, I think the best part of your day was when you were playing with mommy's car keys, even though you lost them. That also happened today. And I'll see what he says. So I'm hoping that ending the day, thinking back on for something positive that happened will get him already trained in how to focus on the positive and in a way of practicing gratitude and like counting blessings. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing is I do affirmations with him. I'm going to be honest, through this whole quarantine, they have not, I've not been as consistent because they were a part of our morning routine. And now our morning routine is kind of in flux, because sometimes when he wakes up, I'm in the middle of a conference call because I'm working, or I'm trying to rush and get him dressed because I do have a call, or emails are killing me, you know, so it's in flux. But one of our affirmations in the morning is I'll say, you know, tell me about baby Joy Chaser. Obviously, I'll say his real name. And then, so hopefully as he gets older, he'll answer. But then I'll say, you know, baby Joy Chaser is strong. And I'll say, let me see your muscles. I'll say, baby Joy Chaser is smart. Baby Joy Chaser is funny. Baby Joy Chaser is tough. By tough, I mean resilient, but I don't use that word yet. And sometimes I'll say, like, baby Joy Chaser is tough. That means when you fall down, you get back up. And then I'll always end with something physical as well, even though I'll do more non-physical traits, but I definitely want him to feel good about his appearance and the skin that he's in. And so I'll say, like, you know, baby Joy Chaser has beautiful brown skin or beautiful curly hair or a beautiful smile or such a handsome face. So I'll do that, and hopefully, you know, as he gets older, he'll be the one saying this. When I say, tell me about baby Joy Chaser, he'll be saying these things. And then from there, I'll say, and who loves baby Joy Chaser? And then we'll start listing people in our family that love him. And then I end it with, you know, me. And I say, mommy loves you the most. And then I'll say, and God loves you. And then we go into some scriptures, which I'm going to talk about that on another video from there. But that's kind of our morning thing with affirmations. So those pretty much right there wrap up the 3 things that I am hoping to do differently and making an effort to do differently with how I'm raising him versus how my parents raised me. Now, not that my parents did a bad job. I think my parents did an excellent job. I think I came out pretty well. But the idea that I think for them and for everyone is that each generation get better. So I know my parents probably had time and experiences to pour into me certain things that their parents did not. Especially like, you know, like the education piece. Like my mom's side, education wasn't a big deal. So certain things like that, they were able to pour into me that I think were different from the generation before them. And now it's my turn to, like, you know, up the ante and take all of the good things they poured into me and pour it into my son, and pour it into my son, and then say, oh, plus here's a few other things that I'm doing differently, for hopefully, you know, pouring into him more greatly. So those are the 3 things. So I'm allowing him to say no to me, which even feels crazy when I say it, but I think it's super important, for him feeling like what he says matters, that he has a say about himself, his body, what's going on in him, around him. The second thing, want to do a better job with this whole rape culture thing. I want to raise, like, you know, a strong, confident man who knows how to treat women, and knows how to be respectful of women and see them for not just sexual objects. You know, see them as people, even if he has attraction to women. You know, still, like, women are not just here for sex and for you to look at their clothes and make judgments. So, and judgments in terms of how they should be treated. So, making an effort to, you know, not fall into some of the traps of rape culture. And lastly, teaching him how to chase joy, or how to hold on to the joy that he naturally has as a toddler. So I feel like I was talking super fast, but I was trying to do this in one take. I think we've been successful. They're not back from their walk yet, so I'm going to end the video now. Plus, hopefully it's a shorter video. My last ones have been super long. I'm going to end the video now. I'm really curious, for those of you, I know a lot of you follow, maybe are still in your trying to conceive period, if you started following for my TTC videos, or you're a single mom by choice like me. I'm really curious as to how you're going to raise your kid different. And they're back. Hi, watch out, watch out. You want to be in the video? Come around this way. Come here. Come here. Come say hi. You want to say hi? Come say hi. Come here. But what? Come here. This way. Come back. Come on. Come say hi. You can show your mask. I went and got him. No. You want to say hi? No. No? All right. Maybe say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. No. Oh, I tried. like I said, he has the right to say no. So there you have it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the things that I plan to do different with raising my son than how I was raised. And if you're doing anything or hope to do anything different with how you raise your kids versus how you were raised. Until next time.